Oh, good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Thanks for tuning in. As you all know, this is our, well, maybe you all don't know, but this is our evening Crime Talk Live. We do it every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. And then immediately after this, for all our Patreon members, and if you're not a Patreon, you can go to the link below, sign up for Patreon. We'll send you out a link to all our Patreon members. And not only do we get to continue kind of the conversation, but we also get to do it where you can call in and have an actual conversation versus just the chats, because sometimes they go by very, very quickly for sure. Anyway, so it's been kind of a big couple of days. We've tried to live stream just about all of the Chad Daybell preliminary hearing, which started yesterday and went through the better part of today. I, unfortunately, was not able to watch part of the late morning session as well as the afternoon session because I had to go do lawyer stuff, which required me to go be in federal court all afternoon, arguing a motion to suppress, which we'll see if we win. It could go either way. But we have a really good judge, very smart, but it's also a whole new world. Limited moving around in the courtrooms. There was no standing at the podium. Sitting on your butt, addressing a federal judge was a little hard to get used to doing. Usually just habit, you stand up and speak. So to be told to sit there and argue from your chair was very difficult indeed. So the preliminary hearing, let's talk about that really. Now, for those of you who do not know, and there's a lot that may not know, but let's talk about it, okay? First, who am I? My name is Scott Reisch. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the state of Colorado. I do both state and federal cases and have traveled all over the country doing federal cases. I've been doing it for some 25 years, so I have a pretty good idea of what the heck is going on. Now, a preliminary hearing is a hearing for a felony. Particularly when somebody is in custody, you're entitled to a preliminary hearing. It is a screening device to determine if there is probable cause, all right? Because probable cause, it's a very low standard. It's a standard of would a reasonable person believe that a crime was being committed and that, in this particular case, Mr. Chad Daybell may have had something to do with it, and it relates to the charges that are brought against him in this particular case. The most serious charges obviously being the conspiracy to delay or hinder the discovery of evidence or the alteration of the evidence as well. So that is a preliminary hearing. It is not a trial, okay? It is a preview. It is a glimpse of a trial, a sign of things to come. Does the district attorney have to put on all of their evidence? No. Does the district attorney have to put on their best evidence at a preliminary hearing? No. It is an opportunity for the prosecutor to put on just enough evidence for the court to find that probable cause exists. And as you may have heard by now, the court has in fact found probable cause, and therefore the charges will now be bound over to the district court for an arraignment. The arraignment is where people say guilty or not guilty. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe there is some sort of a deal that's worked out between now and arraignment, or go to arraignment and are pleading not guilty, and they'll set a trial within 6 months. It is, a preliminary hearing, most of them are waived, okay? And when you waive your preliminary hearing, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are guilty. It's just simply saying, you're going to get a finding of probable cause. And I can tell you, I have had, I think, one case in its entirety thrown out at a preliminary hearing. It just doesn't happen. Now, Chad Daybell's attorney knows that a case being thrown out of preliminary hearing does not happen. So what is the purpose? We know the purpose of the prosecution is to present enough evidence so that the case can move forward. So then what is the purpose for the defense to go to preliminary hearing? Well, a lot of times it's client control, okay? Sometimes a district attorney will tell the defense counsel, if your guy goes to preliminary hearing, there will be no offers. And you're like, oh, wow, I've never heard that before. Ooh, I'm so scared. I'll never go to preliminary hearing. You scared me so much. No, that's what the DA is saying. You're like, okay, fine, whatever. And sometimes I tell the district attorney, you know what? This will be the best 15 minutes of your life if you go and have a preliminary hearing. Put the officer up, he regurgitates the evidence, and it's a reality check for the client to actually see and hear that, oh, wow, this is suddenly real, okay? And some prosecutors get it, some don't. Clearly, in this particular case, everybody knew they were going to preliminary hearing. If it's a routine drug case, oh, your client wants to go to preliminary hearing? Okay, hold on, let me see if I can get the officer. And they call him in, and literally they get up there and regurgitate. The prosecutor in this case did a pretty darn good job. It wasn't anything like, oh my gosh, wow. But guess what? It was a preliminary hearing. All he has to do is check the boxes. He met every element of the offense so the judge can say that probable cause was sufficient and bound the case over. That's all the DA had to do. The defense, like I said, didn't think the case was going to go away today. If they did, they were delusional. And I'm sure that that's not the case. Now, so the prosecutor, he did a really good job. Let's call it for what it is. I think the only real thing that I would have to say was he had a couple of issues with the electronic equipment, and who am I to criticize that? Technology can be difficult, and you test it, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work. So to the prosecutor, Mr. Woods, he did a good job. Let's talk about the defense attorney in this particular case, Mr. Pryor. And some people are going to say, oh, Scott, you're so biased. Oh, you're not being... Yeah, he did a good job, all right? And I saw some of the comments when people were streaming live. Oh, this guy's mean to women. He's beating her up. He's got an attitude. I can't stand him. Well, guess what? He's not there to please any one of you, or me for that matter, okay? But he effectively did what he had to do. He helped lay out his defense, not only on the record, all right? He locked witnesses into particular statements that now they're locked into that. They can't change it. If you change your statement and modify it later, it will appear as though you were not being truthful, okay? And the other thing, I guess I would probably, if I had a criticism of the prosecutor in this particular case, was Melanie Gibb, okay? And if people think I'm being biased or whatever, I'm just telling you the way I see it. The first day, she testified at the end of the first day, I thought, man, she nailed it. She came across as very credible. She's like, listen, I was helping out someone that I consider to be a friend. Yes, I didn't know her that long, a month or two, but I really trusted her, and she was kind of manipulative, and I really fell for it, and I lied for her. But then she said she ultimately came back and didn't tell the truth to the police. And then, of course, she did that 21-minute phone conversation with Lorivalos and Chad Daybell. And it's like, okay, she can explain it. I thought it was gonna be a little juicier because, that was the first time anybody had heard it. Yeah, it really didn't say much, but she didn't say, oh, you have, Lorivalos and Chad Daybell didn't say, oh, well, you have our kid. What'd you do with our kid? Oh my God, you lost him, right? No, they called her up and, just kind of like, well, they talked a lot of religious Bible stuff and days coming and things like that. So that was it. So the only criticism I would have with Ms. Gibb is that the prosecutor did not prep her for cross-examination, okay? There was apparently not a lot of witness prep with her. Now, I get it. Some people are like, hey, just put them up there. It is what it is. But prosecutors, most of the time, they're dealing with police officers, dealing with professional witnesses who get up there. They know to look at the witness asking the question. They know to pause and reflect and don't get mouthy, okay? You know, police officers, they don't get sideways with you because they know it doesn't matter. Prosecutor doesn't like my answer. He's going to clean it up on redirect. Lay witnesses don't always know that. So Melanie Gibb came off as evasive and confrontational. Some can say that Mr. Pryor came out of the gate and he was a little aggressive, and I would say he probably was. But I think he was trying to establish that, hey, I'm in charge. You're going to answer my question. Ms. Gibb had to be admonished to answer the question, okay? And when the judge is telling the witness, answer the question asked, not the question that you want to answer, that means you're not answering the question, okay? And in front of a jury, that can look like you're being evasive. Why are you being so hostile? I thought you were just the innocent person here. Why are you getting mean? He's just asking you questions. Let him come across as a jerk. Just answer his question. The DA will get up and clean it up in just a couple of minutes. So just answer his question. Yes, no. But, and this is the thing. I was talking with the lovely Miss Kristen on the way back from court, and I said the beautiful thing about that little exchange between Mr. Pryor and Ms. Gibbs was he had asked her early on in the questioning as to whether she had had a conversation with the district attorney between the time she got off the stand and when she testified. And she was like, I think the first answer was, well, no, and then, well, maybe. And then it turns out not only does she have a meeting about the case, at least 2 detectives were there. At least 2 people were there from Mr. Wood's office and another attorney. So basically, if we went from, well, yeah, we really didn't meet, to there were 6 people having a conversation about the facts of the case, okay? That's why cross-examination is so important. And it may look as though someone is being aggressive, but if somebody's not answering the question, guess what? That attorney is going to take charge of the room and say, listen, witness, that's a nice answer, but you didn't answer my question. I did it this afternoon with a detective. I'm like, that's a very nice answer, detective, but you didn't answer my question. So let's go back right here. Where am I going to find that? And then they finally admitted today, oh, no, there wasn't anything there. Sorry. Right? But that's the point. Cross-examination. So I saw people making comments that, Pryor was being mean. I'll be honest with you. I've seen some real jerks of attorneys. He was pretty mild. If you think Mr. Pryor is rude and condescending to a witness on the stand, oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. He was pretty chill. He was trying to get these people to kind of open up to him, but she was so evasive early on. It's just, he scored some points. And if that was in front of a jury, I think he would score some points. And the jurors would have to say, wow, why was she so evasive? At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference whether Melanie Gibb comes across as credible or not credible, unless there's some other information, obviously, that we don't know about. But he was doing his job. And if he totally sucked, like Lorivalo's attorney sucked, because I got accused, there's one particular subscriber, I don't know who, or somebody was making comments saying, man, I hate this Scott guy. He's so mean. He's so defense oriented. He's biased. And I'm like thinking to myself, wasn't I the first guy to say that Lorivalo's attorney sucks? This guy is terrible. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I think you saw a difference of night and day between an experienced attorney and someone like Lorivalo's attorney who is not as experienced. If I were Lorivalo's attorney, I'd waive him for the preliminary hearing. I mean, you just got it. You just got everybody locked in under their statements. What do you want to do? Repeat it twice so they can, if you attempt to impeach them later, it's a prior consistent statement again. Now, waive. What else are they going to call as it relates for the charges for her? Nothing. Do you think the case is going to go away? No. I would just order a transcript, save myself 2 days in court. That's what I would seriously consider. What are you going to get out of it? Oh, this is going to cost your client a hell of a lot of money. It's a lot less expensive just to order the transcript. You got all these people locked in and, go from there. So let's talk a little more about the facts of the case. What do you think? What was the big aha moment? Let me know in the comments what you think the big aha moment was throughout the preliminary hearing. I can tell you what I think it was. I think it was the new details relating to the discovery of the body of JJ. I think that was the biggest news or information. Today there was the 3-minute telephone call that Lorivalos made to Chad Daybell, literally the morning that the police show up and are, searching the property. Yeah, he doesn't exactly sound like someone who is thinking like everything's going to be okay. Frank, do we have that queued up? We can play that phone call. It's only 3 minutes. Let me tell me what you think of this particular call here. Go ahead and hit it, Frank.
A call from and paid for an inmate at the Madison County Jail. This crime is subject to recording and monitoring. If you must wish to talk, hang up now. Thank you for using silence.
Hi, Dad.
Hello?
Are you okay?
So they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Anonymous. So Mark means we'll be talking to you.
Okay. Well, what, are they in the house?
No, they're out on the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching. There's a search warrant, and so we're going to just get on this with the kids.
Okay.
Yeah. So you tried to set up a call. Glad you called.
Yeah.
So we'll see what transpires.
Okay.
Yeah, don't.
What do you want me to do? Pray.
What?
What do you want me
Yeah,
to
pray. So, yeah.
Okay. What can I do for you?
I'm feeling pretty calm. I would call Mark, though, maybe. Just talk with him.
Have you talked to him already?
I did call him, yes.
So he knows what they're doing?
Yeah. It's like a call from somebody else I need to talk to. I love you so much.
Okay, I love you. Should I try to call you later?
I don't know. I don't know. You can try, yeah. I'll answer if I can.
Okay.
I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, baby. I love you.
Okay. Love you. Goodbye.
All right. That was the call, the jailhouse call that came in from Lorivalos to Chad Daybell the morning that he was finding out that there was a search warrant to search the property, and ultimately, do you think that telephone call just reeks of consciousness of guilt about what they're going to be looking for? Do is that what that call says, or is it just somebody knowing, being coached by his attorney saying not to discuss the facts of the case on the telephone, and Valo telling him to pray? What are your thoughts? Let me know, and we'll talk about it. It looks like we have a super chat here from Stacy. Scott, why did Mr. Pryor care so much about Tylee and Melissa Gibbs' relationship? Well, we'll never really know for certain, but I think he was trying to tie something in to some sort of possible defense, and that basically she doesn't know the full picture of what was going on. There was quite a few questions about that kind of the question here that Stacy asks about during the cross-examination. You didn't really know Tylee. You didn't get along with Tylee. The judge shut him down quite a bit. It really has nothing to do to go with this. It could possibly be something to the effect at trial, that, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe saying that she's the real killer by chance. That phone call that Melanie Gibbs recorded is 21 minutes long. We actually put it up on our page yesterday, so you can listen to it. And it was characterized where on cross-examination, Mr. Pryor asked her, why'd you do this? This is because you thought you had to basically clear yourself? Why did you record it? Was this done at the direction of the police? No, I was just doing it myself. He's working on something. It doesn't necessarily mean, he's going to come up with something at trial. I don't know. Preliminary hearing is an opportunity to see what comes up. I don't know. She obviously, Tylee obviously wasn't at school, and in that call that was on there, there wasn't anything. I mean, I was hoping for a little more. I was hoping for a good old-fashioned, confession, something along those lines, but there wasn't. Now, Valo and Daybell didn't say, "Oh, Melanie, where? What do you mean you don't have JJ? My God, you were with JJ. You were with him. I thought you were at the movies with him. Oh my gosh." They too were playing her just as much as she was trying to get information out of them. They were being very evasive, very coy, and it's just it's a call. I think it also goes along with the line of questioning that Mr. Pryor did with Melanie Gibbs, is that, hey, you didn't know this lady that well, but apparently you guys bonded pretty quickly. And, for the most part, who do people bond with? People that are similar to them, that they get along with. And so, she made her out to be, asked her that, Lorivalo can be very conniving, manipulative. She can be very convincing of certain things. And guess what? She said yes to every one of those things. And, it's the defense may argue eventually at trial, if it gets that far, hey, if Melanie Gibb can be convinced to lie for Lorivalo because she's going on about everybody's out to get her and, it's just a horrible, horrible, world out there. The world's against her. Just take this to the police and it'll all be okay. Well, if Lorivalo can manipulate Melanie Gibb that way, imagine what you can do to a guy like Chad Daybell, who is clearly, you got meat eaters and you got grass eaters. He's not exactly, whatever. He's probably, I don't know what his relationship was like. Maybe not great. I don't know. And then, he's fallen all over, Lorivalo. You think he's going to fall for whatever she has to say? I think one could probably make that case. There was lots of questioning, not only of Miss Vallow, but her husband, her boyfriend. Let me look at my notes here. What was his name? Warwick or something like that? I think it was Mr. Warwick who testified. There was lots of conversations about that part of the testimony about who was coming in and out, who saw the children. Nobody saw Ty Lee, and the story was she was off at school at BYU, Idaho. Everyone saw JJ come in being carried by Alex Cox. Okay. All this comes out, and in that particular evening, there was, nothing to say Chad was there. They've never tried to establish, who essentially killed the children. Unless I did miss part of it today, unless something like that came out, but I'm pretty sure I didn't see that. The prosecution didn't establish that. They're not trying to prove a murder case. They're trying to show there's a conspiracy to cover up the remains of a murder case. So we'll have to continue to watch that. Let's see here. There was a big super chat that came in here, so I want to make sure I get that because I try to look at all of the comments here. But okay, Antoinette, thank you very much. $20 super chat. Thank you. Why did they burn Ty Lee and use so much duct tape on JJ? The grandparents looked relieved. Yeah, I feel, it's always tough when you see kind of the responsible parties there. Obviously, they cared about, JJ. They were, concerned about him, and they're there. They've been in every court proceeding. And it's always good, particularly when young people, children are no longer with us, that there's somebody there advocating for them. So that's good. Why did they burn Ty Lee? And all the duct tape, like I said, that was I'd say the big fact that came out, when they recovered the body and they took JJ's body in for the autopsy, the fact that he was still in his pajamas, but he was bound with duct tape at both his knees and his wrists, and that he had literally a garbage bag, the kind that you put in. They described it as kind of the waffle shape bags, the ones that expand when you put them in, stuff you have under your counter, under your kitchen cabinet, so you put it in the trash can. And he described, the detective, I think it was Hermeseo, who described the autopsy, and when they unzipped the body bag that they were brought in to, and that he's there and he's got his little was it socks, I think, or like a Skechers shoe or something, and then he had his little red pajamas, and there's a bag duct taped around his neck, going from the neck all the way about chin high. They didn't really get into the cause of death, but one can clearly say they don't have to establish that as an element in this particular case, but certainly we'd like to know. Ty Lee, obviously her remains were found the following day, and she was charred. There's burning. Someone tried to burn the remains. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why they would burn her other than they thought that they were going to, dispose of the bodies, and that was one way to do it. I think a lot of questions need to be asked, where, ultimately, if it did take place, where the murders took place. Obviously there was a murder, but where did they move the bodies there? I mean, were they burning the bodies, the day that they, shot the raccoon, and burned all those extra bushes? Was that the day? DA seems to think so, or was it done somewhere else? And they brought, the bodies there to be buried. Kind of stupid if you think you're going to get, think about it. Idaho, Wyoming, Arizona, all that vast land out there, and yet you're going to bring the remains back to your own property? What are you thinking, man? It just makes no sense as to why they would want to do that. Taylor, what do you make of Mr. Pryor questioning the FBI phone analyst specialist so harshly about implying things about Chad being guilty? Well, I'm going to have to take a pass on that question about the raccoon text. Yeah. Oh, they're implying that that was the burning and things of that nature. Well, obviously, those people have no direct knowledge that was in fact what was being discussed. They can't break a code saying, "Ooh, raccoons are, code for this." The judge will give them some leeway, but you can't just simply go in there and speculate other than what evidence do you have of that? There was evidence about, a dog and stuff being dug up in the pet cemetery, but why, what other animals were dug up there as well? If they were dug up at all. Maybe they haven't found the raccoon yet. Maybe it really did happen. I'm sure that's what the defense will more than likely try to argue. And that, as in the famous words of Freud, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Okay? Sometimes a text about shooting an animal, maybe it was the most excitement he'd had all day. I don't know. But when everybody tries to say something nefarious is taking place, and this is the evidence they have, and look at them saying the famous words of Freud, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. It doesn't have any other meanings. Sometimes it's simply what it is. It doesn't mean that there was something else going on. Let's see. Let's go. There's another super chat. Why was Chad's lawyer asking Melanie so many questions about the intensity of Laurie and Alex's relationship? Well, what I gleaned from that line of questioning was the fact that Alex and Laurie were obviously very tight. They apparently do lots of things, if not just about everything together. She moves, he moves. She moves, he moves. She gets an apartment, she wants to be right next door. Or he wants to be right next door to her apartment. Maybe some people are really, really close with their family members. Now, I think one, saying, maybe just a cigar is not a cigar. Maybe they get along really well. Maybe they look out for each other. I don't know. Maybe he thought she had a tough life. Who knows what's going on? Yes, Mr. Pryor seemed to imply that maybe there was something little unusual going on. Is that the way you took it, Frank? I think so. I think he tried to, that they were really close. And, that basically he would do anything for her. Who knows what dark secrets lie in the world of Alex Cox and Lorivalos, going back to when they're kids to today's world. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I can't imagine, moving from state to state, following your siblings around. It's just, a little, it's unusual, but like I said, this case has everything. Literally we got, missing children, people that, for lack no real criminal history. They look like people that, could be walking down the street every day, and if you not to digress too much, but seriously, I have gone places and someone has run into me and be like, "Hey, Scott, how you doing?" And whether families there or maybe the lovely Miss Christian's there, I'm like, "Oh, who is that?" And the guy looks totally normal. "Oh yeah, I represent him on this, this, and this." She's like, "Oh," people are like, "Oh, I wouldn't have known that he would have done that." Well, really, what does somebody that's accused of something look like? You just, you can't make assumptions like that. So I always think it's interesting I love people watching. When you used to be able to go to a mall and you maybe just sat down and you watched the people go by and you're like, I wonder what their story is. The lovely Miss Christian and I sometimes do that. What do you think their story is? And I think she gets it right most of the time. So it's just interesting. That's why this case has so much stuff. You have people that look like everyday people. It's not like you're dealing with a career criminal that, shoots a bunch of people on a campground. We're talking about everyday looking people that somehow have managed to get themselves wrapped up. It has a little bit of adultery, maybe some incest as well. Who knows, the way Mr. Pryor is saying it. Missing children, dead children. This kind of case has got it all. And I think that's why it is so interesting. Let's go to, Terry Dalton. Did Melanie seem to be more upset today, like almost angry and defensive? Well, Terry, I think today, like I said, I think yesterday, Melanie Gibbs came across as a very good witness. I'm like, man, she's credible. A lot of people are like, oh, she's lying. Even Pryor tried to bring in, statements to try to say, well, you lied. Do you think the DA is going to prosecute her for that? No. Prosecutors have the discretion to make those charging decisions. All right? They're not going to do that. What are you going to do? Give her immunity? And so the defense counsel can get up there and wave, here's the promises of immunity. Isn't it true? You're here and you'll say anything you want. You've got license to lie. The prosecutor's not going to do that. He's smarter than that. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of criminal defense. But let's face it, everyone lies to the police. They do. I don't know why. They always do. And so that particular lie where she steps forward and corrects it, they're not going to prosecute her in any way. Okay, let's see here. A little bit of adultery, Vix text. What, you don't think? I took it as that there was an ongoing relationship between and the testimony that came out that Chad was going to Laurie's place in Chandler, Arizona, while he was still married and before his wife was deceased. There was talk on the call that was recorded about, Melanie saying, I remember seeing you two walking around the park, holding hands, being affectionate before Tammy Daybell passed away. So that's it. Question here. Fludre B design. Is it common for any degree of murder-related charges to be made after preliminary hearings? Wondering if this is the direction the state is headed. Listen, the prosecutor has bound this case over on these charges. If they were going to amend or add charges, guess what? We'd get another preliminary hearing on those charges. It'd probably be held up at the district court if they did it at a later date. If it was a separate case, then they would still have that. But they're not going to just say, oh, we got past this and we'll add murder charges. They still have to be able to prove the elements of the case, and each defendant would be entitled to a new preliminary hearing if that took place. I've had that happen. You can amend charges. Happens all the time. Oh, we're going to amend charges. Like, really? Like, you've had this case for how long and you didn't see it? And here we are 3 weeks before trial. You want to amend charges, district attorney man? okay, I want my preliminary hearing. And the judge will say, why didn't you bring these charges earlier if you had it? What makes you get around to it? And then the DA has to fall on their sword and say, well, I didn't know, unless there's some, legitimate thing for new information. That's not going to happen. Let's see. P. Sleep. As a regular, non-criminal woman, I would be terrified to sit up there and be questioned. You see it every day, but regular people get scared. P. Sleep. You are absolutely correct. And if you have ever testified, and if anyone who has testified, even in the most simple of matters, under oath, before a court, you will get nervous, okay? I have had to sit on the stand and answer questions, and it's different. It's a lot different being the guy at the podium out there asking questions and saying, oh, really? Let's talk about that. That's a little different than you said before, versus saying, no, I think that's what I said before or previously. People's demeanor on the stand, some people act nervous. When they get nervous, they act differently. They don't look at the witness. As you may recall, at one point, the judge had to admonish Ms. Gibbs during the preliminary hearing and say, Ms. Gibb, please turn so I can see your face. You're looking straight at the district attorney. I love when prosecution witnesses do that. I love it, okay? Because I tell my witnesses when we are preparing them to testify, listen to the question, then turn to the jury and talk to the jury, right? And then when you're done answering the question, you look back. I love it. It is the defense attorney's dream when you have a witness on the witness stand who only looks at the prosecutor. And it may be because they're scared or they're nervous. Well, guess what? The prosecutor should probably prepare them for that and say, let's practice this. Don't stare at me. You know why? Because when I get up in closing argument, I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, you heard from this witness. And one of the jury instructions you're going to get from the judge is that you are the judges of credibility, and you can look at the credibility of the witness. And how do we judge credibility, ladies and gentlemen? Look at their demeanor on the stand. When people look at you and they're trustworthy and they're believable, what do? They look at you. They make eye contact with you. But remember that witness? All she did was focus on the district attorney, wouldn't answer the question unless the district attorney gave her permission to do so, even on cross-examination. And you saw that Mr. Pryor actually said so. Oh, you're looking at the district attorney like almost you're looking for the answer. Do you remember that? This guy's good. This guy's experienced. He's been around. And I'm not saying he's going to win, but I'm saying he knows what he's doing. He's been in the courtroom once or twice, okay? And he'll go it up and he will say, she didn't take her eyes off of the district attorney. She's being coached. That's not what an honest, trustworthy person does. And guess what? She would put my client on the grassy knoll in Dallas in 1963 if that's what the district attorney wanted her to say. That's what she's going to do if she maintains that demeanor. So the prosecutor got a dry run, okay? That's why I love motions hearings. Let's see, if you have to put your client up for the limited purpose of the motions hearing, let's see how my guy or woman client will testify under oath. Can they listen to it? Are they going to be hostile towards the district attorney? Those are things that you want to see. So, there's so many things going on in this, this particular preliminary hearing. Everyone's judging credibility. Everyone's trying to decide who's credible, who's not. How are they going to do it? Gibbs was using it Mr. Pryor, he was using it as a tool of discovery. And guess what? He was going as long as the district attorney didn't object, and the judge then sustained it. All right? It's only objectionable if somebody objects. And if he's going to let, if the prosecutor's going to let Pryor ask questions that are clearly not relevant and are used for a fishing expedition, go for it. I'm going to keep going until the judge shuts me down. And I'm going to get that information about, oh, Ms. Gibbs, you use that cell phone, do you? Let's talk about it. Oh, you've got your carrier here. Let's see that. How far back do those records go? You know? So we'll see. We'll see. Let's do another live chat. Do it live. Is it possible they know Alex murdered the children and the Daybells were only involved in the cover-up? Or do you think they have evidence of a conspiracy to commit murder? Well, do it live. I believe, and this is a hunch, I haven't talked to the district attorneys, but I think, like a lot of people believe, that there was a conspiracy to commit murder. But what we've talked about here before, it's not what you believe, it's not what you think, it's not what you have in your gut and you just know your gut instinct, your intuition. It's what you can prove. And I think it became clear based upon the evidence that was presented here and the summaries that I've read of the few witnesses that I missed this afternoon, is this is what they have. I don't think there's anything out there, some smoking gun. Maybe they'll find something. I don't know. But it comes down to what they can prove. You know, we heard testimony that just the messages as it relates to, or the downloaded information that came from Alex Cox's phone number, his cell phone, just the information about where they could track him and trace him because of your little cell phone, all the data that it collects. 28,000 pages of discovery. 28,000 pages. And they got FBI analysts over there literally putting in GPS plots and then trying to interpret it. And, you know, Mr. Pryor made a couple of good points when they had one of the detectives on. Let me see if I can find that in my notes from yesterday, where they talked about accuracy of the cell phone data. And I think they were talking, was it within 1 meter? And really that's within 4 feet. And then 4 feet is 20 feet, or, 4 meters is 20 feet, things along those lines. So it really wasn't necessarily trying to say it was that accurate. Now you say to yourself, well, what does that matter? Well, that may seem like a silly question at the time, but that's going to potential search issues as it relates to the search of the property, okay? They have a cell phone that even the detectives that they said they believe it belongs to Alex Cox, all they can say or testify to is that that is the location or whereabouts of Alex Cox, with the device that we believe is owned by Alex Cox. They don't have anybody to put anybody necessarily behind that. And so when motions come around after arraignment, one of the challenges that one may see will be a challenge to the search warrants. Okay. As we all know, you can't go, the government cannot go search and seize your property unless they have good reason to do so. And they have to have probable cause, right? I just spent all afternoon litigating literally a 2-minute stop. It took 4.5 hours to break down the law and all the nuances of that stop and the constitutionality of what the prosecutors are relying upon for a 2-minute stop. Here, the motions are going to be, I would anticipate, lengthy because they're going to challenge, at least I'd be looking for a basis to challenge the search warrants, right? The search warrants on the property. You can't just get a general warrant and say, oh, we're going to go rummage around in this particular area. So if it's within 1 meter or 6 feet, 8 feet, is that enough, or is that close enough? Or is that a general warrant which is prohibited under our Constitution? You can't do that, right? The Fourth Amendment specifically says you have a right to be free from search and seizure, unreasonable searches and seizure, right? Let's just take a look at it, so we don't get it wrong. We like to read it, quote it accurately. The right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, paper, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Right there, ladies and gentlemen, Fourth Amendment, Founding Fathers, smart guy. So when they're filling out their affidavits and they say, we've got this cell phone data that says that we believe that people were on this particular area of the property for this length of time, and it's within 6 feet, well, how are they going to pin that down, right? And they have to be able to show the place to be searched, the person or things to be seized with particularity. You can't just get a general warrant, okay? There is some really, really good case law regarding general warrants. And you know where it comes from? That's right. The good old phone. It used to be the cops would be, let me take a look at your phone here. Let me see what I got in there. Oh, it looks like you got some stuff going on in here. Illegal search. Well, then the police said, fine, we won't search. We'll get a search warrant to go into your phone. And the police did it. And little old defense attorneys and little old citizens out there said, hey, this thing is just as important and has my personal effects as it does my house or my safe. And you can't just go in here, particularly if you want to rummage around. You can't do that. It went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. You can't do it. You have an expectation of privacy in your phone. And there's been a lot of cases, and we've had some really good cases where these police officers just write general warrants because they haven't been updated on the law by their district attorneys to say, here is the law. You can't do it. You have to describe with particularity what you're looking for. You can't say, oh, I want to go look at his phone, because lots of people carry their phone and you can get all kinds of illegal stuff going on in people's phone, and that'd be a good place for us to look. But we're not sure it's there. So they have to know it's there. They have to know exactly what they're looking for, know where to find it. How do they do that without rummaging through your phone? They can't. So same thing when it comes to challenging a search warrant. If, they're saying 6 feet is close enough to narrow down the search of the property, you don't get to just rummage around. Oh, 6 feet. Well, maybe it was 6 feet over here. Where are they starting for? All kinds of interesting issues on this case. Let's go. Got another super chat here. I can't believe it's already been an hour. Wow. Which one decided to kill the children? Laurie, Chad, appears Alex did as he was told. Well, Internet, I haven't seen nor heard of any evidence as to that. A lot of speculation that Alex is the one. I certainly would have to try to throw him under the bus if I was, was his attorney. And I think you saw that. I mean, prior, a couple occasions was really not being any friend to Lorivalo, which goes back to what we talked about last week in the sense that everybody had to have separate attorneys. It's a conflict of interest, right? You have to be able to say, I only care about this client right here sitting next to me. I can't have dual loyalties because, man, I got a great question, but I got to throw this person under the bus. You saw that. He made Lorivalos look like a manipulative person, corroborated by Melanie Gibb. Couple of questions here. What do you think of Chad's behavior in the courtroom? What do you tell him if he's your client? I'll be honest with you. I saw a lot of people say, I don't like Chad Daybell. He sits there. Okay, you don't like his physical appearance. You're disgusted by him because of the allegation. Listen, he looked like a pretty darn well-behaved client in court. He was sitting there. I mean, what are you supposed to do? They're accusing you of doing terrible things. You're there with your attorney. You have to be there. At least his attorney got him dressed out and that he wasn't in jailhouse garb like Valo has, appeared at every court appearance. He's sitting there. He looks like, from the Zoom cameras there, that it looks like he's paying attention to the evidence. He did not have any outbursts. He wasn't, I can't believe, responding to every word that was said by somebody that he didn't like. I thought his demeanor there looked pretty reasonable. Unless there's something that I missed, I thought he looked like a pretty well-behaved client. And, take it from somebody. I've had clients that have been kicked out of the courtroom, have sat in their chair and spun around, no matter how much you've tried to tell them, don't do that. You're not impressing the jury in any way. I've had people stand up and yell at jurors, at witnesses. So his conduct looked pretty darn reasonable to me. What is he supposed to do? Look sad the whole time? Look outraged? Is he supposed to laugh, cry? I mean, it looked like a couple of points he got emotional. I think when they played that call of, between him, Valo, and Gibb, it frankly looked like he was a little emotional about that. Probably because he's like, man, this doesn't sound good. So I thought overall, from what I saw, his appearance looked fine in court. He wasn't doing anything disruptive. He wasn't, it's just, I thought he was fine. I mean, how is he supposed to react? Like I said, he's not supposed to show emotion. His attorney probably told him, don't react. If there's something funny that everybody in the courtroom, laughs about, if the attorney trips and falls on a cord or something, funny. So I think his demeanor there, and I get it. People say, oh, he looked fine. And I'm not telling you, like I said, some people say, oh, Scott, you're being biased. You're not, I'm telling you the way I think it is. I mean, I thought the prosecutor, he did what prosecutors do. Most prosecutors aren't flamboyant. Most prosecutors are not great showmen and get up there and embrace they're all about, here's the facts. I mean, listen, anybody can be a prosecutor. What happened next? On this particular date, where were you? What happened? And if you don't know the next question to ask, you simply say, what happened next? What did you see? That's it. You don't have to be flashy. You don't have to be, a little bit of a showman, so to speak, or an actor. But some of the better ones are. You got to get out there and be emotional. You have to be passionate. So I thought I thought the court proceedings went pretty well. The prosecutor did great. Pryor knew that the case wasn't going to go away, but he did what he had to do. I guarantee you, Daybell's probably sitting there thinking, man, my attorney, he did a good job. Man, we got some stuff to work with. He looked like he was unhappy, or he looked like he was happy with his attorney as to how things are going. Italia D, Super Chat. Why do they only have Alex's phone pings but not Chad or Laurie's? Good question. Maybe they don't have the subscriber information. Maybe they do not have all of the information as it relates to subscribers. Maybe people had burner phones. Maybe they were talking. Maybe they didn't take phones with them. Haven't really seen anything as it relates to that yet. I mean, wouldn't that be interesting to see? Wouldn't you like to see? Because we know that night on the 22nd, where Alex brings JJ in and he is asleep. I think that was telling for sure. All right, we got a super chat here from Sarah and $50. Wow, Sarah, thank you very much. You don't have to do that, but we certainly appreciate it. It's much easier to read those super chats because they're highlighted here. Question, do you think the skull of Ty Lee might have that one shot Chad took that morning? Will we get more details on her autopsy to find out? Eventually, the autopsy will more than likely be released. We'll get more information on that, whether it's beforehand or, So yeah, we will definitely wait and see. I mean, that's interesting. Was that the shot? I don't know, but as I recall the testimony, Ty Lee had been missing previously for some time. I'd have to go back and look at the timeline on that, but good question, Sarah. Definitely for sure. After they found the bodies, can the whole property become a crime scene and be searched? Tara, if they get a warrant, okay? If a crime's committed in the car on the property, yeah, they're probably going to search the car, but unless it's in plain view, they have to be able to get a warrant and look at that. You can't just go search everything. And even when you think, oh my gosh, there's a dead body, we know that, let's say a homicide case. We know there's a dead body. What do the police do? First thing they do, secure the scene, step back out, go get a warrant, so that if they do find something incriminating against the person, they had legal permission to do so. Otherwise, it would be an unconstitutional search, and anything obtained during an unconstitutional search should be suppressed and thrown out as the fruit of the poisonous tree. Have any lie detector tests been given to them? Not as far as I'm known, Crystal. Crystal, good question. Polygraphs, frankly, they're just not used that much. They're not that reliable. For lack of a better term, it's junk. It's a tool of interrogation. These people have been lawyered up from the beginning. They're not going to go do a polygraph test. Now, maybe they want to do their own private polygraph test. They can do that, keep the results to themselves, or if it's great and say, oh, look, my client passed it, here's the results, probably not going to do that. Donna, please tell me this isn't going to be like the Casey Anthony case, the CSI effect. I don't know. I think this is going to be a test of the actual test regarding the cell phone admissibility issue. This has been one of the issues that I've been dealing with for the last couple of years, because somehow courts think that just because it's on Facebook, it's got to be true. There has to be somebody to authenticate these records. And even though they have all these cell phone records and they're going to be admissible for a preliminary hearing, they may not necessarily be admitted at trial because they have to show who was behind the phone. All they can say is this was a device that we believe was registered to Alex Cox. That's what they said today. There's nothing there that can actually say Alex Cox had that phone. For all we know, that could have been Chad carrying that phone, borrowing that phone. It could have been some transient that who knows? There's so many things that could be there. Quick question. Florida B Design, I hope I get that correctly. Why did they play the call between Chad and Laurie in court when the discovery was made at Daybell's property? Had a hard time hearing the reason and the call. The Chad-Laurie call. It went to consciousness of guilt. Clearly, I think, and we've got this cut out and we can get it up here shortly. But what it clearly shows is that he sounds a little dejected. It wasn't like, hey, Laurie, glad you called. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. These cops are out here searching the property. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe I should go help them dig it up, see what they're looking for, right? No, he didn't do that. He's like, yeah, no, they're here. She's like, have you talked to Mark? Yeah, I've talked to him. They know what's going on. So that's why they played it. There wasn't oh, great, we got nothing to worry about. God, I hope they find those children. No, none of that. None of that. So All right, we have gone just about an hour. Let me do a quick one here. How much do you think Chad is paying for both lawyers for each case? Crystal, no idea for sure, but I'm sure that if they were attorney worth their salt, they probably asked for a $50,000 to $100,000 retainer up front, which will have to be replenished once those funds are exhausted. And on a case like this, you got 28,000 pages of phone records for one person. You can burn through a lot of retainer like that because you got to go through it. And guess what? If you don't go through it and somebody down the road figures it out or finds something that's exculpatory, beneficial to the defense, guess what? There's going to be a 35C, ineffective assistance of counsel down the road. Let's see. If found guilty, real quick here, Lulu Girl, if found guilty on these conspiracy charges, could they be charged for, say, murder of Alex, Charles, or whomever else? Possibly, if new evidence comes out. I would be of the mindset, particularly as it relates to JJ and Tylee, that this is their one crack at the apple. They'd have to do some pretty good explaining to the court. There's a thing called compulsory joinder. If you got the cases, you got to bring them now, and you got to do it. What happens if Chad can't afford both lawyers for the upcoming trials? Well, then the attorneys could either A, stay on the case and work for free at their own choosing, but the court cannot make you pay for that or to work for free. They would have to get new counsel, which would mean a delay in the case, starting over. Or they could say, all right, the state will pay you at a reduced expense of your hourly rate and go from there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we go, hopefully, thank you for everybody. Can't believe, wow, 4,100 people watching on a live. That's pretty darn good. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Know you have lots of things you could be doing. The fact that you're here with us, we greatly appreciate it. We're going to go to our Patreon page. If you haven't already done so, you can sign up for that. And we'll also have it set up so you can actually take phone calls as well. And as always, I'm telling you, if there's one thing this case has taught us, and it's what I tell people every day, you need to know with whom you're dealing with. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. You can sign up for a background search subscription and anonymously search individuals and get a report for a one-time fee, a monthly subscription fee. But guess what? You can search as many people as you want and do it anonymously. Get their criminal history, property records, phone records, social media records. You can get it all. CrimeTalkSearch.com. Sign up. You'll be glad you did. I wouldn't tell you if I didn't think it was worth it. Quick super chat before we go. Did Chad's kids live with him at the house? If so, why are they not in court answering questions? They could be on a witness list, but my understanding was the kids lived across the street. It probably would depend on the particular time frame. All right. Thank you all for watching. We'll be here again next week, and we'll have a video up for you tomorrow as well. And we will, like I said, be going to our Patreon Crime Talk conversation we're having in just a minute. We're there. You'll actually be able to call in, and we can talk about this case. So thank you for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.